What is up, everybody? It's Wayne. Welcome back to the Bigfoot Report. Tiffany and I have a few more that we would like to share with you. We are going to start off with a terrifying hike. Then Tiffany's going to tell you all about a child and a gentle giant. Then we're going to talk about two squatches at the lake. And we're going to end it with the Boy Scouts encounter. Guys, I know you're ready. We are ready. Sit back, relax, because it's time to go. Well, basically, I was hiking Sourdough Mountain in the North Cascades. It's a pretty grueling hike, like 13 miles, 6,000 feet of elevation gain. I met a random couple at the trailhead and we hiked together. Halfway up the mountain, at a small clearing, I hear a tree knock. Then two more tree knocks. I could not believe what I was hearing. It was like someone banging on a tree with a baseball bat. If you've ever hiked an actual mountain, the notion that someone is off trail, way deep in the timber, pranking someone by banging trees is insane, while you're 3 hours up the side of a steep mountain. Anyways, nothing else happened, and we reached the peak at about 3:30 p.m. There were a few hikers coming down the mountain as we started pretty late in the morning, so we were the last ones on there. After enjoying the view, we started our way back down the switchbacks. The couple was hiking quickly, so I fell behind as I was enjoying the views and the berries and just the entire experience. The couple disappeared from view and I was totally alone. Now I know you're supposed to make noise while hiking as there are tons of bears up there, so I was singing a little song to make some noise when all of a sudden I hear rustling and footsteps over my right shoulder. It sounded like bipedal, but I knew there were no people behind me, so it freaked me out. Then the footsteps would mirror mine. I would stop, the rustling stopped. I would start, and they would start again. This really creeped me out, but I still had no idea what it was. Then the entire forest went totally silent. It was like a heavy blanket was over the atmosphere. No wind, no birds, no bugs, nothing. This was the creepiest moment I have ever experienced until shortly after, when suddenly it felt like I was being watched. It was such a strong feeling. It was like two laser beams were burning into my head. I felt like I was a prey animal and some predator was about to attack. Total instinctual fear. I continued hiking and turning around to see what it was, but saw nothing. I turned around a few times until I reached a small clearing in the trees and turned and looked, and there it was. Sitting about 80 yards away up the mountain. It was sitting or standing, not exactly sure because the bottom half was covered by leaves and brushes. But there it was. A giant, hairy, man/gorilla looking creature. It was dark brown and had long hair all over it. Didn't look like fur. It looked like hair. Massive shoulders. It looked like an old school football player with the pads on, no neck. Head looked like it was right on the shoulders. It looked like the head had a slight conical shape to it. Huge eye sockets, brow ridge. Huge dark eyes. Couldn't see any whites, but I was 80 yards away and I was just in shock. I couldn't believe it was real. I was in shock and awe as I stared at this thing. When I looked into its eyes, it was like I got a total tunnel vision and it was hypnotizing. It felt like I was in a trance as I stared at it. I said under my breath, "Holy shit," and did a small nervous laugh. That's when it moved its arms. It was so massive, and when it moved, that's when I snapped out of my trance, and my logical brain took over, and the most intense fear and dread washed over me as I thought, holy shit, that's a massive wild man, and I have no idea what it's thinking or what it's going to do. The entire visual encounter from moment I first saw it to the moment I turned around and left must have only been a minute or so, maybe 45 seconds. It felt like hours. I couldn't have been more than 1 minute in real time. It felt like I was about to die or get eaten. I just turned quickly and continued hiking down the mountain. I just turned away and left. And I didn't hear anything after that. I ran down the mountain so fast. What was supposed to take 2.5 to 3 hours took me an hour and a half. I didn't stop running until I got to my car.
Encounter with a Gentle Giant. A child's encounter with Bigfoot in Washington State. On an unspecified date during the late summer months, a 9-year-old child residing in rural Washington State near the mountains experienced a remarkable encounter with what they described as Bigfoot. The child had a curious nature and often explored the forested area near their home, despite being advised by their mother to stay close. That day, feeling particularly adventurous, the child ventured deeper into the woods, following a faint trail. After wandering for some time, the child arrived at a secluded clearing surrounded by tall trees and thick ferns. The atmosphere was serene until suddenly, rustling noises broke the quiet, triggering the child's instinct to freeze. They anticipated seeing a small animal, perhaps a rabbit or a deer. Instead, a low, menacing growl pierced the air, causing the child to feel a surge of fear. Looking up, they spotted a large wolf emerging from the shadows, its dark, ragged teeth visible. The child felt a mix of awe and terror, but remembered their mother's advice to remain still in the face of a predator. Just as panic began to set in, the wolf, startled by another presence, retreated into the forest. It was at that moment the child turned and encountered a towering figure standing nearby. The figure was described as being approximately 8 to 10 feet tall, covered in thick dark brown hair with hints of gray. The child's initial fear dissipated as they observed the creature. The Bigfoot looked at the child with dark yet kind eyes, radiating a sense of calm that made the child feel safe. The child noted that the Bigfoot appeared to regard them as a lost child rather than a threat. After a brief moment of mutual observation, the Bigfoot crouched down, picked up some sticks and leaves, and fashioned a small doll made of twigs and moss. The gentle nature of this action further reassured the child, who accepted the doll without hesitation. The encounter lasted for an indeterminate time, during which the child and the Bigfoot shared a silent understanding. Eventually, the Bigfoot nodded and quietly retreated back into the woods, vanishing as silently as he had appeared. The child, still in shock, clutched the newly received twig doll as they scrambled back home, where they excitedly recounted the experience to their mother, who was very skeptical of the story. Over the following days, the child returned to the clearing multiple times, hoping for another glimpse of the Bigfoot. Although sightings did not recur, the child began to find other doll-like creations left at the forest edge, each one more elaborate than the last, crafted with great care using twigs, petals, and moss. These gifts seemed to signify that the Bigfoot was indeed watching over them, leaving signs of kindness and connection. Years passed, and the family moved to a different town. The child kept their cherished twig dolls, storing them away but never forgetting the mysterious protector of the forest. It wasn't until adulthood that the witness shared their story with a close friend, learning that similar accounts existed regarding Bigfoot acting as a guardian to the children in the wilderness. The memories of that encounter continued to inspire gratitude and wonder about the creature that had seemingly looked out for them. During a later hiking expedition along the Pacific Crest Trail, the adult witness experienced what they described as another form of protection when confronted by a bobcat. While collecting water from a nearby creek, the witness found themselves face to face with this large cat, poised to attack. Just as fear took hold, a sudden and powerful growl resonated throughout the area, a sound that belonged to the same gentle giants they had encountered as a child. Emerging from the trees, the Bigfoot made another appearance, causing the bobcat to flee in fear. The adult witness felt an overwhelming sense of safety as the Bigfoot approached, their initial shock replaced by a calm understanding of the creature's intent. The Bigfoot surveyed the situation, checking to ensure the hiker was unharmed before once again retreating into the depths of the forest, leaving the witness in awe of this experience. Throughout the hike, the adult felt accompanied by a sense of reassurance, believing that the Bigfoot was present, watching over them. The encounters left a profound impact, shaping their views on nature, solitude, and the mysteries that lie within the wilderness. Time and again, the witness found themselves looking back fondly on those moments, grateful for the guardian spirit they had once encountered, a being of immense size and gentle nature that personified the magic of the forest and the connection between humans and the unknown.
A long time ago, well, a very long time ago now, my friend Jason and I were prone to getting involved into many types of misadventures. And this one, while seemingly pointless at the start, proved to be one to remember. While I am uncertain over the name of the campsite in question, I do know that it was one my father and I had visited on many occasions. The site had plenty of parking for camping vehicles, a close by restroom for people to relax and drop a few pounds, a nearby kiddie pond stocked with smaller fish that couldn't escape and were just waiting for their respective number to come up, and a nearby river with a boat rental place for people to troll the river or just fish leisurely. Surrounding all of this was open woodland, offering a tree-lined canopy over the camp parking and mountains around us. It was a lovely place to be and a welcome place for two young teens to adventure and explore. One particular night, after a lousy day of fishing that had me slipping off the mud bank and into the kiddie pool, frightening all of the fish and causing other campers to curse in anger, pull up their reels, and head back to their camping areas in defeat, Jason and I decided that hiding in the brush overlooking the river as darkness set in around us would offer a great opportunity to see the nightlife come alive. And it kind of did. We heard, rather than saw, bats overhead as they picked off insects over the open water. We saw raccoons heading up towards the sleeping camp area with the likely idea of going through some trash. There were even some deer that strode through the dark, wary of anything out of the ordinary. Since I'd fallen into the kiddie pool, I guess I smelled okay to pass as non-threatening. As all of this was happening, the familiar sounds of buzzing insects and chirping crickets berated our ears, reminding us of just where we were, and that there was life all around us. But even reminders have a tendency to go mute, like a snooze alarm set properly. The silence was not an abrupt one, but rather a dying down swooping steadily over us from one side to the other. The clicks and chirps from the bats stopped. The buzzing of flying insects around us retreated. The chirping of the crickets in sections went silent. Having been accustomed to outdoor evening antics, my friend and I both understood that at that point we were less alone than we had been previously. Where was the threat coming from, though? And what could it be? We both had our mindset on it being something like a coyote or possibly a mountain lion. Whatever it was, we knew that staying still was in our best interest. Long minutes passed in shared silence, broken only by our shallow breaths of expectancy as we strained our eyes in the darkness, trying to pick out anything moving through the leafed canopy and ground brush. A group of crickets off to our left started to chirp again, less loudly than before, and we thought that perhaps any sign of possible danger had passed. Suddenly, there was a tinge of an odd scent in the air, earthy, musky, and not at all like the kiddie pool scent that now defined me. Where was it coming from, though? Long moments passed in the darkness. To the left, the band of crickets sounded like they were trying to play their version of the national anthem. A sentiment may have been appreciated by some, but I found it to be needlessly patriotic at an odd time, much like the entirety of the script of the film Big Trouble in Little China. I was just about to stand up and head back to camp while we could still find it, when an odd shape seemed to detach itself from the trees before us, close to the riverbank. My heart stopped in my throat. The form was huge, almost monstrous in size, but strangely human in its movement. It cast a heavy gaze to the right and to the left before turning and beckoning to another unseen form still hiding from our shared line of sight. What was going on here? In no time, another form smaller than the other came out of the brush and scurried to join the larger one at the edge of the stream. Jason and I were curious, though equally frightened, over what we were seeing. Was this a mother and child drinking from the river? Huge hands attached to long arms scooped water from the river and brought it up to their face and rubbed it over their hair and on their arms and their body. They're bathing, I thought. Whatever he had stumbled upon was bathing, both parent and child. Jason and I watched in interest as the ritual before us went on. The entire time, the only thought I was dwelling on was how quiet these beings were. They were like the raccoons we had observed before these two came along. Their movements over the terrain absolutely silent. Eventually, the two left their place along the river and melted back into the black of the trees around us. Long minutes of uncertainty passed before the insect noises started up again in chorus. And we knew that we were safe to head back through the bramble to camp again. As quietly as we could, we did just that. The meeting, though brief, had left the two of us with little question as to the validity that there may very well be something else out there. Uncertain, unidentified, but absolutely alive and well.
Boy Scouts encounter with massive creature near camp in the Hetch Hetchy wilderness. The witness, now 56 years old, recounted an incident from when he was a Boy Scout on a trip in the Hetch Hetchy wilderness. He had been on a multi-day hiking trip where he was free and unsupervised, along with other scouts. The encounter took place during the summer of 1978, when the witness was approximately 12 or 13 years old, as part of a 50-mile Boy Scouting hiking trip. The group had decided to take an off-trail route in the Hetch Hetchy wilderness, northwest of Use, after hearing from other hikers that conditions were rough due to mosquitoes. They managed to find a secluded camping area near the Tulum River, setting up their tents in a makeshift campsite. On the fourth or fifth night into the trip, The witness was sleeping in a tube tent about 40 feet away from the campfire. As the night progressed, he was awakened by the sound of heavy footsteps and crunching noises nearby, which he initially thought belonged to a scout leader making his rounds. Confused and still drowsy, he leaned out of his tent to investigate. What he saw shocked him. Approximately 20 feet away, a massive creature was on all fours at the end of another scout's tent, with its head inside the tent. The creature's size was so immense that he initially assumed it was a cow or bull, rather than considering it might be a bear or a Sasquatch. As he observed it, he noted features that struck him as odd. It had no hooves, instead appearing to have feet similar to a human's, and its chest was extraordinarily broad. The creature was covered in dark brown hair, measuring 2 to 4 inches in length. The witness recalled the chest being 6 feet or more thick, and despite the fear that might be expected from such a sight, he felt curious rather than afraid. He thought about alerting the scout in the tent, but hesitated, fearing it might startle the creature. Instead, he remained quiet, watching the creature sway slightly as it inspected the tent. During this moment of observation, he locked eyes with a scoutmaster who had been in a nearby tent, a firefighter from Oklahoma, who had also noticed the creature. The scoutmaster gestured for him to remain quiet and return to his tent, which the witness complied with. Remarkably, he fell back to sleep, despite the strange event that had just unfolded. The following morning, the witness was eager to discuss the encounter, but was called aside by the scoutmaster. The scoutmaster reassured him, suggesting that it was just a bear that they had seen. The witness, although confused by this identification, agreed to keep the sighting quiet to avoid distressing the other scouts. The report notes that later that day, all the trout the witness had caught and left on a stringer in the river were missing, with only the heads remaining. The scoutmaster attributed this to well-behaved bears, which now raised questions in the witness's mind about the nature of the creature they had encountered. The rest of the trip proceeded without incident, but the encounter lingered in the witness's memory for many years. He didn't speak of it extensively until recently, when he recounted it to his family, who were surprised he had kept it to himself for so long. The witness expressed uncertainty about the scoutmaster's true knowledge of what they had seen, pondering whether he had recognized the creature as something other than a bear. This encounter provides a detailed account of an unusual wildlife observation, highlighting a lack of fear on the part of the boys and the fact that this sighting has remained a significant memory for the witness even decades later. The incident has sparked reflection on the nature of the creature witnessed and has remained a topic of personal exploration for the witness into the phenomenon of Sasquatch sightings.